Hey, welcome to Through the Prism of Chrism. I hope you bookmarked this page and you're here as a returning guest, but if you've just stumbled upon us today, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being with us, because these are little 4.5-minute mini videos of revelatory teaching, and we've been having a great time this week studying on the numbers of the Bible. We've called it the Book of Numbers because the numbers in the Bible have significance and symbolism, and I'm not going to get weird and try to define to you what number 421 means. But there are common sense rules of interpretation. For instance, if you're without excuse, if you can look down at your fingers and count to 10 in the morning, then you know the 10 commandments and that you're accountable to God and responsible. Now, our number today is number 5. When Adam first looked down at his hand, he saw 5. It taught him that God must be a good God. I can see, I can smell, I can taste, I can touch, I can hear, 5 senses. That all speaks of the goodness of God. And as it begins to unveil the revelation of the Bible, we see this number 5 over and over. For instance, the first 5 books, the Law or Moses, we also call it the Pentateuch, Penta meaning 5, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, begins to show God's grace. The 5th time that the name Noah appears in the Bible, it says Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord. The 5th time the name Ruth appears, if I have found grace in your sight. The 5th time the name David appears, it speaks of having favor with Saul, so it speaks of grace and favor. The book of Psalms, for instance, is not just a single compilation, but has 5 separate books that come together, each ending with a doxology that says amen and amen. The epistles, for instance, are written by 5 different writers: Paul, Peter, James, John, and Jude, and they explain the Gospels. John, who's often called the apostle of love, really he's an apostle of grace, wrote 5 different books: the Gospel of John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and then the book of Revelation. So over and over, this number 5 is tied to grace and God's grace. It's a messianic word or number. Why is that? Isaiah 9 and verse 6 says, "Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given." That's talking about Jesus. The child born is the son of maternity, the son of man. The child given is the child of eternity, son of God. And then it gives us 5 titles. His name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. When you think of John 3:16, it talks about grace. God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes on him, shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. There are 5 different offerings in the Old Testament: sin offering, trespass offering, burnt offering, peace offering, and meal offering. These all talk about grace. Now, let's talk about the gifts of grace in the church. Ephesians 4 verse 11 and 12 says apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher. You've heard of the 5-fold ministry, haven't you? Well, there were 5 wise virgins that accepted grace, 5 foolish virgins that rejected grace. You think about David when he went to the brook and selected 5 smooth stones and knocked the giant on his back. Well, that speaks of the 5-fold ministry. The apostle governs the church. The prophet guides the church. The evangelist, standing tall, gathers for the church. The pastor, symbolized by the covenant ring, guards the church. And the pinky, the teacher, grounds the church. So all of these are very important. You can see that, when the lad brought his lunch to Jesus, Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. We already talked about the 2, but think of those 5 loaves. He blessed them, he broke them, he broadcast them, and 5,000 were fed, and the fragments of 12 basketfuls, well, that speaks of the 5-fold ministry. If we could be blessed by the Lord, broken by the Lord, distributed by the Lord, then the whole world could be touched with this living bread, the bread of life, Jesus Christ. This is all in this beautiful number 5, and tomorrow we're going to look at the number of man and the number of sin, number 6. But if you've enjoyed this, I'd sure love for you to comment, like if you like, share this with a friend, and tune in tomorrow for more on the Bible, the Book of Numbers.